Hey troops, Mark here. I'm gonna show you today how we might repair a cedar strip canoe. So yeah, my daughter and I, we just got back last week. We were on the North Saskatchewan River doing a 4-day trip. Was awesome, but it was big flows, big flows. Hit quite a few rocks, swamped it, had a great time. But with that comes some damage if you got a cedar strip canoe, which is what I primarily use to get myself around. So yeah, I got significant repairs to do on it. At first, it looked terrible. But you find these cedar strip canoes are pretty forgiving with a little bit of work. So I did build the cedar strip canoe myself. Having said that, I am not a woodworker by any means. I'm a terrible hack. It took me a long time. A lot of mistakes were made, a lot of blemishes in the boat. But it's something I did, something I wanted to try, something I did. And I like taking it with me wherever I go if I can. So yeah, that's my canoe. Having said that, everything I learned in how to do it, and especially how to repair it, I got from a book. It's the Bear Mountain book. I'll put a link to it. I don't know if it goes up above or below, but I'll put a link to it if you're interested. You can get a hold of that book, and that's the processes I'm going to try to use to repair it. And it's mostly what I did to try and build it as well. So the scratches, again, it's just on the fiberglass itself. So a little sanding just to get the varnish to adhere to the surface is all you really need. So sand that down, a couple coats of varnish, and you don't notice the scratches quite so bad. That's not a big deal at all. But here, this is where the actual fiberglass cracked itself. So there was a crack here, and then a couple in here. What happens is the water gets between the crack and the wood, and it actually separates the bond between the fiberglass and the wood. When that starts happening, if you don't take care of it, the wood will rot out, and yeah, you're gonna have a greater challenge. So what I did, certainly wasn't, these were just cracks, but I had to take anywhere where the fiberglass wasn't attached to the wood, had to come off. So I took all the parts off. If you look over here, this is kind of what I had to remove. So this is from the bottom of the boat. These fiberglass chunks, just cut out with a box cutter. So we got that done, and yeah, like I said, it's not as bad as I first thought because the wood is in good shape beneath it here. As long as it doesn't get too thin, so I'm going to have to be careful with sanding, but it should be alright. What happens if the wood is compromised, and that happened to me a couple of years ago, and this is what the fix is for that. Actually had a hole right through the canoe, so the wood was busted out. A little smaller than this piece, but basically what you do is you have to build a plug with cedar strips, and we attach fiberglass on the inside and outside. Again, I'm a carpenter, so it looks kind of rough, but it's held up for a couple of years now. And unfortunately what happened, this wasn't even during paddling, is I keep the boat in the wintertime suspended from the ceiling. Just kind of pull it up here and keep it up there out of the way so we can park in the garage. I was taking it down in the springtime, came out of the cradle and it landed on my belt sander. Oh! Put a hole in there. But yeah, it's been, I think, a couple of years that happened. But this patch has been just fine. It's not as smooth as it once was, but seems to be holding up well. The other thing we got this brass stem on both sides of the canoe. I debated whether to put this on or not. It's optional for any build if you want to put it on or not. But the beating this thing has taken, you can see it's even kind of worked here a bit. It saved a lot a lot of damage on the canoe having this piece on it. So I don't know, I think I'm always going to put it on there just to protect that stem a bit better. But yeah, that's what is up ahead. I got a big paddling trip coming up in a few weeks. So yeah, this is going to have to be waterworthy. I can't be going when it's like this. First step, I got a significant amount of sanding. So let's go do some sanding.